Death by noise.
Through dark veil of space, time.
Yes, I like it.
This is Warp Chatter!
Sweet mother of the abyss!
There's a great deal of work to do.
Alright, welcome once again to the Warp Chatter podcast, everybody. This is the podcast dedicated to talking about the Horus Heresy Legion's digital card game, Warhammer 40,000, Horus Heresy lore, everything that encompasses. This is a podcast by players for players, and we're staying all-inclusive. All players, for all players, by all players. And we have got a couple players with us today. We've got a new player. We've got a new player to the podcast, I should say, as well as a player who's been on the podcast before. I am your host, Scuff D, and with me, as always, is the crab co-host, Axel Manning.
Howdy, howdy, ho.
And then joining us today, we have got Lucarionape.
Good morning, everyone.
And Jamie from the Discord.
Hey, guys. Good evening. Well, morning as it's 10 past.
By the time we film this live, trust me, it will come out in the morning.
Yeah, in the various ebbs and flows of the Eye of Terror Studios, time exists at all ends, but some parts of the world, for us, it is just hitting the evening, and for you guys, I think you're entering a new day, so on the other side of the globe.
A nice global community we've got here.
That's right. It spans all continents. I think somewhere there's got to be somebody
at this point
on Antarctica.
Maybe if we have an episode with someone from South America, we can cover all continents.
Have we not had somebody from Brazil?
Oh, we did, didn't we?
Yeah,
I think we covered all of them.
Yeah,
we did cover all of them.
We just got to get that Antarctica player. That one guy.
I'll make the sacrifice. I'll go to Antarctica.
Let's find out what those penguins are up to. Those penguins of the warp.
Get on some scientific dates,
I feel like Warp Penguins are a legitimate 40k character.
That is my next Chaos Space Marine army. Penguins of the Warp.
That sounds like a loyalist.
What I'll do is it's just me taking my Black Templars and then I'm just fielding them as Chaos Space Marines. So it works out.
Just add a little more white
Paradons, but a little bit colder.
Yeah, that's right. It's like they've got snow bases, I foresee great things there. The penguin is a ferocious beast.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to be a fish around a penguin.
Nah, yeah, that's if you're a fish, those fish starties better watch out.
I mean, if you're a seal, though, they're kind of just walking bags of food.
Yeah, they're not big. The Emperor's penguin is the biggest one.
And it's like a toddler.
Maybe 3 feet high at best.
And I could fight a toddler, so I like my odds against an Emperor penguin.
It's a slap fight for sure because they've got the fins. So
when you said Emperor penguin, my first thought was an Emperor Titan model.
Ooh, okay.
I'm thinking of the Emperor, but a penguin. That needs to be made.
That's just what it is. It's just the Emperor penguin. It's just one solitary penguin.
The god Emperor penguin of mankind.
He's got the laurels, right? He's got the golden laurels, and then he's just got a halo behind him.
I know there's someone who drew all the Primarchs as hamsters, and I know another who drew them all as cats. Now we need all of them as penguins.
You haven't seen them as fish? You haven't seen the fish starties?
No, I've not seen the fish starties.
Oh, fish starties is great. That's one of my favorites. The cats ones is good too.
Where are the fish starties? Where do you find these things?
I don't know.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, let me ask myself. I don't know how I found them. I was down a dark hole one day, and I have no idea how I came across them. But I did, and then somebody did all the Primarchs as fish starties. Here, I'll send you one in the as an image here. This one is apparently. This is a Raven Guard. This is a Raven Guard fish. Let me go. If you got a chance, take a look at fish starties. I'll just do copy instead of save.
I was going to say, I love doing an audio podcast and us having visual gags. Keep doing this.
There you go. And, you got to do fish starties, and basically,
Anglerfish Angron.
Yeah, that's it's perfect. An anglerfish angron. They've got. I think the Mortarion is a moray eel, so he's moray Tarion.
It's pun based. I love it.
It is, and they're really good. I'll let you guess what I'll let you guess what Lionel Johnson is.
Don't even want to know, but I'm going to go with a tigerfish.
I want to say something stupid like a goldfish.
He is, in fact...
Can you guess what side he's on?
Yeah, he's a lionfish.
Oh,
Guys,
lionfish.
you guys, come on, it's a lionfish.
Listen, I didn't know there was a
Someone's done
lionfish.
everything.
I didn't even know my aquatic animals since I became a crab. I know crustaceans now.
Yeah, so fish starties, it's a real thing. It's a real
All
thing.
you need to know is that everything evolves into crabs.
Everything does indeed involve in the crabs, and if you tell me otherwise, you're just wrong.
So and for all I know, these could have been done by the same person who did cat starties. I don't know how we got talking about fish and cat. Oh, penguins, that's what it was.
I blame the penguins. It's pretty easy.
Penguins of the warp.
Let's not let anyone hear about that.
This is somehow a 30K podcast.
Yeah, this is a Horus Heresy Legions podcast, I promise. Although, I mean, it does work because we're talking about Primarchs and their fish counterparts. Our topic of the night is going to be the Sons of Horus. The Sons of Horus faction spotlight. We had potentially there was going to be a balance patch. We weren't sure. There hasn't been, so that's fine. We got a lot to talk about with the Sons of Horus. But before we do that, I want to give a chance to do player introductions and just kind of have you guys tell us about yourselves. Luca, you've been on the podcast before, but for those who haven't heard those episodes, tell us about yourself.
All right. Hi, I'm Lucarionape, otherwise known as Luca. I'm Lodge Master for Orion, one of the junior is the wrong word, one of the old-time lodges with the Traitors End community. We run more relaxed, no minimums in events or anything like that. As to myself, I'm trying not to laugh because of the fish pictures that keep on getting posted in the group chat right now.
They're not real. Ignore them.
I'm closing my eyes and ignoring. How do I put this? I am a university student. I have not got the easiest of times right now, and including in other things, I will not be sleeping tomorrow night. Yay!
Oh, sorry to hear that.
I volunteered.
First mistake.
Yep. Never volunteer.
It'd be like I do and become a mod simply because it was put into your lap and you kind of went, oh, fuck, and then just said yes.
Otherwise, I found the game through White Dwarf, as mentioned last time, and I don't really know what else to say. If I main a faction, I main Custodes, simply because they're Custodes. But the Sisters of Silence have also had my love recently, and I'm really annoyed I missed the premium shop. I missed logging in 2 days ago by accident because they're in the premium shop now. And I want that legendary.
Execution Blade is very good. By the time the folks hear this at home, it's going to be gone. But, if you can time travel, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but the only way I can get it right now is if I pay for the shop, and I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's not really worth it. VIP status the first time, worth it afterwards?
I've never bought it before.
It gives you a bunch of coins your first
Yeah,
time.
the first time you get it, I think you get like 500 gold or something like that.
And you get like a card back and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's not bad. I don't recommend it still, but
No, I mean, in terms of purchasing, there have been a couple of decent deals that the game offers. I'm not one to chase all the old arts. I purchased Kabanda because at the time that was the only way I could get Kabanda. I still don't have a normal Kabanda. Angron, I went a whole year before I finally got an Angron. I got that when they finally released the alt art. And also that deck, particularly when they had Angron, had the Beast of Fyra, which was the only way you could get it for a while there. So it was actually like, oh, sweet, like that's a good way to pick up this awesome epic card before it had Maintenance 3. And that like kind of defined the meta for a couple months.
What was its old maintenance, if it even had it?
2. It had Maintenance 2, which was just enough to still allow you to drop some pretty sick combos with it. Bane Strike rounds were the main thing. If you played it on curve, you could do a Bane Strike round, and if it had 3 health, that's a lot of damage that you're taking. So. But I mean, that's one of the good buys. I mean, like, it's okay. I think when they just did this last week, I don't know if it's still going, but the Emperor's Children faction crates at a discount. That's the first time I've ever seen
I saw it this morning.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I mean, that's pretty good too. It's 50 coins off. It's worth it a lot more than just buying a random first expansion in order to get it, or just buying the actual 200 one.
If you don't have Emperor's Children's cards, you're newer to the game, or even you're not necessarily new, but when you started, you didn't really buy any stuff from like the Isfahan 3 crates, so you didn't have a whole lot of Emperor's Children. It's a decent way to try to flesh out that faction. So
Yeah, and they're a solid faction. Fulgrim, even after the few nerfs, are still performing quite good.
Yep.
I mean, I'm playing them right now up in low Terra, and I'm climbing relatively easy.
They
Emperor's Children are... Yeah, are you sure those crates are worth it? I mean, because it...
Well, if you want just EC, they're 50 off. Like, they're 50 coins off. So when you buy 2 of them, you get the same amount. Well, all right, let's do some math here. You buy 4 of them, you get the same amount as buying 3 normal ones.
I think the big thing is you, and this is a factor that you have to kind of think when you're buying a faction crate. Number one, how many of those cards do you have? Do you have a lot of Emperor's Children cards? Do you have none? Because, I mean, that's a great way to fill up the thing. Number two, the most important thing, how many legendaries of that faction do you need versus how many legendaries of the set that they came in do you need? Because if you're fine, like, let's say for Emperor's Children were in a 4 faction, they were in the base set, so there's a lot of legendaries. There's legendaries for them, for the Sons of Horus, for the Death Guard, and for the World Leaders, but there's also all of the neutral legendaries, the Demon Princes, Duke Mortimer, Jubok, Melgator. So if you don't have any of those, it may be worth it just to buy Istvan 3 crates and try to... Whatever legendary you get is going to be decent. You might get some junk. You might get Abyssa. You might get, defensive maneuver or something that you didn't really want. But if all you need is 4 Emperor's Children legendaries, you know you're going to be guaranteed to get the legendary out of that crate, and it really increases your likelihood of getting one that you need versus getting a duplicate of something you don't. But at the same time, if you only need 1 Emperor's Children legendary, then you probably shouldn't be buying that crate to begin with. I mean, just wait till it's in the shop.
Yeah, unless it's a Primarch.
Yeah.
So, like, you get don't you get 3 cards from Emperor's Children and sort of 2 wild cards from anything.
2 wild cards.
Right.
When you reach that 30 crate limit, I mean, you can get it early, but you reach that 30 crate limit, is it guaranteed that it's going to be Emperor's Children?
Well, it's still Emperor's Children. The legendary is guaranteed to be an Emperor's Children as well.
Right, okay. But the only problem with that is, as well as, say you've got... I had this problem when I was collecting Blood Angels for the first time. Say you've got 2 or 3 out of the... was it 5 legendaries back then? I always seem to keep getting the same one again and again and again. And I wasn't really like Blood Angel break. It was just going through Terminatus, or no, one of the other ones. Anyway.
We did go off handle and didn't even get your introduction, Jamie.
Oh yeah. No, cool. So my name's Jamie. I'm also a student, but second time back at uni from the UK. If you can't tell by my voice, my gamer tag in Legions is Shock Assault. So
I have seen you around then.
Yeah, I'm relatively new player, to be honest. I think I got into it at some point during COVID lockdown here in the UK, and just sort of started off slow, but slowly got more and more obsessed. And and the last couple of months I've started popping up in some tournaments and stuff, just trying to get more involved. And I got picked up by the Unremembered Empire sort of group of lodges. So the Iron Hand Brotherhood. I used to be a part of them. Yeah, they're really nice bunch of guys, to be honest.
Oh yeah, Vicarious is a real cool dude.
Yeah, and they've helped a lot. They've helped with deck building, and just that sort of like collection of like knowledge of Horus heresies is brilliant. And yeah, no, it's good. And so I used to main Blood Angels religiously because when I was coming up through Prospero Calth, I just got absolutely murdered by this guy who set down Hermia and then a couple of what's the 3-drop of the 2/2 that turned into 4/3?
Oh, the was it Meldus?
Host of Angels.
Yeah, Host of Angels.
That's it. And so before I was playing like really slow decks in Calth and Prospero and whatnot, I couldn't believe how powerful this card was. And so then it was like, right, okay, if you can't beat them, join them. So then started doing Blood Angels, and then slowly got a bit higher and realised maybe they're not the best thing ever. So, but,
they still are. Raldoron is crazy good.
Yeah, he got like a 64 or 62% win rate in the last mess report, didn't he? As we talked about on previous episodes, the meta report is iffy at best on how much you can trust it. I still think that's a really high number. Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Well, for Raldoron especially, it could just be a few people playing him, but playing him very skilled. He's one of those warlords where if you know what you're doing, you can really get a lot out of your games with him. Like, it's not, I mean, there's always like, oh, he gets a second copy of, Hermia or Crimson Spectre or Telestial Spear. That's a possibility. But really, his upsale is like knowing how to use his ability to buff your stuff. And then capitalize on that. And that can really swing games. And if you know what you're doing, it's really fun playing those games and playing a player who knows what they're doing. And like, you think you've got the board, and they turn it around on you, and they end up with like 2 buffs on their board from like a shock assault, and then his ability, and you're like, oh great, now I've got more stuff to deal with.
It's that pressure of knowing that if you leave something on the board with 1 health left, he will take that off the board for 1 energy and buff the troops around him. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like that pressure that Rahm brings. Like, you can't feed Rahm, because otherwise he'll just build and build and build and just chip you down and eat your troops. It's the same with Raldoron. Like, players have to think just that 1 extra level of like, okay, if I attack that, I don't want to leave my big troop left with just 1 left, because it will be fodder.
And the best thing about the Blood Angel card pool is they're such a reactive faction. So when you play something, there's a high chance they have a counter to it somewhere, because they have Spear of Telesta, which gets cheaper. They have the flanking Sanguinary Guard.
They've got a lot of flanking. They've got Shock Assault. They've got, and then on top of that, if you leave their stuff, then they've got the Requiem, Angel's Tears. Yeah.
Cyrus can delete your stuff. Yep. Like Cyrus with the 2E flank card is a 7 energy hard removal. That's average. And
Angel's Tears, I think, is the real gold mine in that. If you can get like a couple of troops left on the board, suicide them in, or get some of their fast attack or flank, it's just so much damage. The attack of the fast attack, then the 3 that's just bouncing around the board.
Back when I used to run that Rhino, I was able to get a Liesel at like energy 5 with Rhino and Host of or Angel's Tears. Sorry, that was fun.
Yeah. So when Quinzar was meta, that fun meta that we had.
Fun.
Yeah. I actually had really good results with Raldron, because they ignored your board as they were setting up for their, like 1-turn kill move. And if you could get Angel's Tears down and, get a couple of Goldstone Hunters or the Drake's squad, the 2-1 attack.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did, pretty much 30 damage in 1 turn myself, just from having, I think I got 2 Angel's Tears on the board and was just, like suiciding troops between them. And so getting 6 off plus the damage, and very satisfying. Very, very satisfying.
They're one of my favorite factions to play, because I have their Primarch. Sanguinius is a load of fun.
Yeah, he's becoming more popular as well. I know a lot of guys playing him, really committing to the season, just playing him.
If it works, it works.
Never doubt an unstoppable warlord. Warlords who've got that reach.
Yeah.
Speaking of warlords with reach that are unstoppable, and pulling us back on track for today, there is Loken.
How dare you? Loken is...
And Horus.
Loken the Joken. Like...
Broken Loken.
I'm sad they gave him an alt art in his current state. I understand he's a beginning warlord. You gotta make him basic, but man, is he basic. Not exactly fun to play, if I'm being honest.
Well, they are a faction with the most alt arts, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Abaddon has an alt art. Horus obviously's got his alt art. And then Loken has an alt art, which is, I like the alt art. It was just kind of odd having an alt art for a starter warlord. The only one who doesn't have it is Tarek, although Tarek had a alt art for a selection when he first debuted. It was not pretty.
There's art of him in the code. It is.
And there's Tybalt.
Oh yeah, Mar. I forgot Mar.
Oh yeah, Tybalt Mar.
But do you think people would actually have to start playing Tarek if he had an alt art? Or do you think it would just rot in people's collections?
He needs a rework, or even make his ability 1 energy.
According to Mr. Everguild, he is used.
Yeah.
By who?
That's a question.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Like, if anybody's using them, I think they're just using them on a whim. Yeah, a long time ago, in ages past, he had a place. He had an additional ability that was basically like Oathor Weird makes at the end of turn, heal 1 to a friendly troop. He wouldn't heal himself, but like if you had a 3 health that attacked like your Groger squad, it could become a 3/2, or that was at the same time we had Goldstone Hunters that actually had 3 health. It was a different game, and they changed a lot of stuff that he was using, and he kind of dropped off because then we added more warlords, etc., etc. His ability, deal 1 damage to target dice, draw a card. Okay, that's all right, but We just changed Argyltal's ability to deal 2 damage. You know, paying 2 to ping for 1 doesn't feel great. Yeah.
No, but that's a surprise to hear that you had a heal in him, because that doesn't seem like the Sons of Horus playstyle at all. They just seem to be all about just direct damage, just get as much damage down as possible.
Yeah.
Isn't the closest that avoids it Abaddon's Chosen?
Yeah.
Or Stalker rounds.
That's I don't know, like that still feels like a dead card. Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of dead cards.
Yeah,
when it comes to that.
I think the Sons of Horus have got their set cards. I think the new cards that they got, quite a few new cards that they got, gave some options. And I mean, talking about the Sons of Horus, I think the first thing we should talk about really is the fact that they are the template as their starter faction. You've got Loken as your starter warlord. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, for everything, even following the recent patch that they've got to Chariot of the Gods and such, that's the template that they base everything off of. You know, 2 damage for 2 energy for 2 damage as an ability, as a staple ability. 4 energy for 4 damage, and then maybe a draw or a conditional draw, and then you've got other cards in different factions that either plus or minus to that based off of what they did, based off of rarity. 5 energy for a hard removal, and then you go, you know, either high or low with that depending on additional effects or other conditions. Everything was kind of like base, right? You know, you've got, all right, you're paying 3, you're going to get a 3/4 with an effect. Okay, you're paying 2, you're going to get a 2 with a rally, or if you're paying 5, you're going to get a 5/5 or a 4/4, and then you start adding on that stuff. And at the time, and even still to this day, with the odd exception, I would argue, of Custodes, and even that's a poor example nowadays, but even still, they kind of excel the base form of the Sons of Horus as they are, not much more.
And I would argue Blood Angels as well, for some odd reason.
Some of them, yes. Some of them, no. But I mean, in different waves, in different spurts. I think the biggest thing where we've seen some deviation in the game, I would argue, would be the 5-drops. I think a lot of 5-drop epic troops have gotten better. Whereas the 5-drops for the Sons of Horus is like, why? Like, aside from Targhost, why play a 5-drop?
I would argue that
I like the Cleave one. He's not great, but I like him.
Yeah.
Cadark, that's it.
It's almost like the one weak point in Sons of Horus, because I think I agree with you. I think they're a very kind faction for beginners to play. You know, they have an answer for everything. They have strong troop. They have like direct damage.
A very vanilla faction.
Yeah, they've got card draw, so you don't feel like you're like, you know, stuck.
I think the only thing they're lacking is anti-stealth. Even then,
that would be direct. They've got indirect means of dealing with it, with indirect damage
with the cleave.
Yeah.
I'd also say
they can just kill things quicker than they need to with stealth. You know, you don't need to wait for stealth troops to go and then get uncovered. Just kill them before they get any good stealth troops on the board. Straight for the base.
Which, I mean, depending on the faction you're fighting, if you're fighting Raven Guard, that's just not how it works. But for some of them, yeah. Most Raven Guard stealth troops are early drops. But Informant Network is a staple auto-include, so it's not like that's a problem.
Yeah.
I bet you that Informant Network's going to get hit with a
and they can't.
Soon. They have to in some ways, but in doing so, they'll have to change all the other anti-stealth.
Well, no, if they change Informant Network, they have to, like, if they buff it, maybe. But if it's a nerf, they have to remove most of stealth in the game. Because there's a reason why it's an auto-include, because there's no other answer to stealth.
I think it's pretty fairly costed. It's the only reason it's an auto-include is because there's so much stealth there. I mean, one of the problems with, you know, Raven Guard and Kieran at the moment is because they put him down at 7. All right, you then spend 3 on anti-stealth. You then, you know, more often than not, got 4 energy left to delete this 6/7 card. Mm-hmm. It's pretty tricky to do.
Yeah,
and I mean, look at the Blood Angels. They have a 3 energy that does even more for stealth hate, so that would have to be nerfed first.
Yeah, I think when you're talking like what the Sons of Horus do, I think what their initial design was, and as time has gone, they've kind of morphed depending on like the 2, I'd argue maybe 3 archetypes that they've got. They really have a couple, but one is definitely strongest, and that's the direct damage. This Chariot of the Gods, Chariot of the Gods, Quickfire, Groger Squad, and then boom, here you go, Vengeful Spirit. There you go, finish the game. Throw in whatever neutrals you want. Then you've got the drop pod options. You've got, for some, Muster for the War Master, Frontal Assault, which, is a nice, cool combo build if you can make it happen. You can see it coming. Your opponent should see it coming if that's what you're playing. And then you've got the Marks of Chaos, which just makes things stronger, especially since the Marks of Chaos themselves got buffed last year. And then you've got Warlords. Really, you've got 3 Warlords that complement it. You've got, you got Horus who draws, and that's just never going to be a bad ability. You've got Loken who does damage, high initiative, and then you've got Tybalt Mar who gives the Marks of Chaos or creates a troop, which is just useful in general. Abaddon used to have, his ability was first off, he was immune to stun, which was the only Warlord who was immune to stun, which was pretty big.
Angron, but Angron's reckoning.
Angron's Demon Host, or his Whispers, basically, was immune to stun. But, being immune to stun from the get-go in a game before Alpha Legion, and then once they introduced Alpha Legion, they're like, well, that's not fair. We gotta take down that. So Abaddon went from not only having immune to stun, but then you start having a lot more Warlords who don't play with troops, or just play with fast troops, so his ability is worthless. Or now we've got
really nerfed them once the troopless factions got popular.
Or you've got a bunch of stealth, or you've got duplicitous, so it's like, okay, he's 3 damage is great, but Santar arguably is better because he can hit the Warlord.
The only downside Santar has is a card pool, but since the hammer is a thing, barely.
Yeah. And then we talked about Tarek, where that's just kind of, in general, he does the weakest out of all of them. So, as far as Warlords go, you win a game maybe with Horus because you're drawing your deck a little bit faster. You might win a game because you're doing a little extra damage with Loka, which is never a bad thing. 2 for 2. That sometimes is the pinch. But really, it's the damage that's coming from those tactics.
Yeah, and Horus is kind of nice because, of course, all the Primarchs, they have the handicap where they have their Whispers, so you lose that card.
Yeah.
With Horus and Sons of Horus, their draw, you can have that and still pretty much get through your entire deck and get all those draw cards that you need, by turn 10, something like that. You're pretty much always going to have the cards that you need just to bash them down.
Yeah, you don't often see that. And that specific build too, with you're playing Burn Horus, that's a dead Whispers. He's not going to hit that Whispers, period. He's playing with a dead card in hand, and it never really affects him because that draw is always good. And you can tell sometimes when they're at 10 energy even, and they've almost got you, and you're like, he's fishing for. He doesn't have Vengeful Spirit. He's going to pay 2 energy. If he draws it, he's got me. If not, and you can tell, even then, it's still at 10 energy. I could still pay 2. I could draw that Vengeful and win the game if I don't have it. If we're that close, and
the horrible one is when they're on sort of 9 energy or something, and with the quick fires as well, and the face bash, you've got 12 damage, and then you get 10 energy and 1 turn 14 damage.
Yeah, it's coming, and you can tell by the pacing of it. It's like, all right, I gotta do something. I gotta throw up ward. I gotta heal. I gotta do something here.
I'm always conflicted when you play Horus and you sort of think like, okay, am I the aggressor? Do I want to try and get him down to before he gets Vengeful Spirit range, or do I sit back and try and conserve my health as much as possible?
Well, luckily, Horus has enough burn where he doesn't really care because he'll just pull out damage.
Yeah,
some mortar strikes to your face, some nice old Vengeful Spirit. They got a lot of damage cooking.
Also
especially after the second wave buff. Holy fuck!
Oh yeah.
What do you think of
4 energy? Do you think that's a fair price for second wave?
Still, yeah, it's still really good.
Yeah, I'd argue it's still really good. Was it better at 3? Sure, but what else was he going to play at 3? 3 energy. Now he's, instead of that being like a guaranteed I'll play it, now he's going to maybe use his ability, maybe throw a quick fire, maybe draw something. At 4, he's got other cards that he might want to play, but still the odds of pulling 2 troops out of your deck, 6 attack out of your deck coming for 4 energy isn't a bad thing at all. And especially in that deck. I mean, that's the whole point, is get through it fast, get the cards I need. If that's 2 less cards I have to accidentally draw instead of drawing my Vengeful Spirit or my Mortar Strikes or, Chariot of the Gods, they're out of my way. Great. Fantastic. Late game.
The best part is the cards you use for those are great.
Yeah, late game, it won't do you any good, but it wouldn't do you any good at late game at 3 energy either. So it's really one of those cards like, hey, if you get it early or even you get it mid, it's worth it. If you've played those troops or you have them in your hand, then you've got another dead card. But at that point, you should probably have a lot of other stuff in your hand, so it doesn't affect you as much.
Yeah, and that Grogu squad, it's so strong having it because it comes out, they get both of them, that's 6 damage, and then they have to try and remove it as well. They have to invest some more energy into removing it. And I think it's kind of like Targos as well, because Targos comes onto the board and you've just got to spend so much. He rarely ever gets, his hits off or buffs other troops or anything, but you just have to throw kitchen sink at him to get him off the board so he can carry on playing.
Targos is very overstated for 5 energy.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah. He just gets stronger as well. You can't ignore him.
Yeah,
eventually he'll become a Slayer of Worlds.
Like the best you could hope for, if you don't have a hard removal, is a couple jams a couple stuns or a jam. But you still have a 5/7 to contest with. Like it's if they play him at 5 energy, or 4 if they've got the counterattack, or 2 if they've got double drill sights.
You can play him turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, good luck.
I've seen it.
Yeah, and you just sort of sit there and go, well, I've lost. Next.
That's just a quick resign.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, Slayer of Worlds turn 2 against an Ingasell. It's like, okay, that's cool.
I mean, is there a stronger Astartes in the game? I mean, if you could pick a dream team from any faction, would you want...
Well, it really depends on the energy, because if we're at late game, I see a Targos, I don't really care, but it's on curve, he is probably one of the strongest Astartes. Simply stat-wise. There's not much higher. Then again, the new Space Wolf one with Ward is very good.
I'd have to think about that on curve.
Is that the frontline one you mean?
No, the one that has Ward and heals. It's a 6 energy, I think. I'm forgetting information about it. But I had it destroy me the other day.
You're talking about Gunnarsson, the 6/7, the Rune Priest?
No, Blood Powers Veterans, the 6/6 with Ward.
The epic.
Whenever any troop dies, gain Bloodfust till the end of time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that one.
I haven't come across it much in gameplay, or if I have, the game's pretty much over. Russ has either bashed me to death, or he's just hanging on himself. I don't think I've ever seen them get off the heal or the...
It's very common now in Space Wolf decks.
Yeah, I see it, but I still haven't... it's maybe been placed, but, hasn't had a chance to then act at the end. I don't know, has someone been absolutely done by this card before?
I mean, I haven't been defeated by it, but I've seen a couple guys in Masterclass run it and do good with it. Then again, Orthanol will run everything and make it work, so that's normal.
Some players in this game there is no fairness for their skill.
Shout out to Orthanol for making Chaos Spawn work.
He did what?
Really?
What are you talking about? I make Chaos Spawn work all the time.
Do you?
I won Bar Knight Legions with them twice, yeah.
Listen, Bar Knight Legions is a different world.
Are you sure?
I would say so.
Are you
Though
sure?
if it's a harder world or a less hard world, I wouldn't know.
Be surprised. You'd be surprised. I've got a deck up there way back when he was out too that I was running him just with the Chaos Cultist and Mechanicum. Free sneak attack and a lot of damage and troops as discretion. It's not hard. I mean, it just doesn't fly under people's radar.
Well, the main issue is his 25 HP means while he may not take damage from hitting you, you can just kill him.
That's just it. Like Chaos Spawn doesn't thrive in a meta where people are throwing out a lot of direct damage. But if people are using on
is really good.
Yeah, if people are just relying on a couple other cards, or if you can throw down enough troops to nothing wrong with a good old Kazdrak, that turns the tide real quick. If you've got enough troops, it doesn't matter. You can throw that in any build. His low health makes people not want to play him. But if you know what you're doing and you're playing it in the right matchup, he can do fairly well.
If you know what you're doing and you're playing in the right matchup, you'll then die by the fast troops that are popular.
Yeah. If are you playing Angron, then he doesn't really have to worry about your spawn because, I mean, you have literally like 5 to 10 less hit points. I mean, you don't have much of a chance there. It's just not going to happen.
In a slower meta, he would be very good.
Yeah, if you're playing if you're playing against like Defenders of Caliban, it works out really well. If you're playing against Stealth, you could have a good game. It depends on what you draw, honestly. It depends on what you draw there. But if you're playing like against, if it's too late, you don't get what you want, then they can just clear your board anyway, so it won't matter.
It's a sad day.
Yeah, that's what you get when you're playing Chaos Spawn. That's the way it is.
So it's an interesting life you have to devote yourself to. It's like the people obsessed with Nurglings. They're crazy bastards.
Actually, saw a really good deck, getting off topic, with Russ with Nurglings.
Oh yeah, Nurglings is auto-include in Russ.
Yeah.
They're immortal.
Maybe it's my ignorance that I've only come up against this once. I always saw him with Nis's Scouts and all the other ones, but I thought, that's what a great solution to the fact he runs out of troops and needs other things to attack with it.
I was just going to change the topic by saying, while Russ is a wolf, we're talking about the Lunar Wolves, or Lunar Wolves.
Yeah.
We really need to stop this.
No, that's normal. I mean, there's not a single podcast where we've consistently stayed on topic, unless it's a Q&A. Check out the last one, by the way, in case you're just popping in now and somehow missed it.
Yeah, it was a good hour and 45 minutes of questions asked and answered.
Yeah, and we got pretty good answers for a good chunk of it. We learned about the new mentor system. That sounds like it'll be interesting.
I think
we learned raid events.
Yeah, we learned raid events and tides. I think one of the answers that we got that we've got some mixed response from. I wouldn't say they're mixed. I think they're pretty much the opposite. Was Horus's Whisper?
Yeah, I kind of laughed at that one.
Yeah, I didn't quite agree with that one either.
Yeah,
I mean, on paper, starting as a Whisper, why would I want that over Lehman or Angron?
I mean, if we're just looking at the Whisper form, I still think Lorgar's Whisper is the best Whisper in the game.
Oh yeah, it's very good.
Yeah,
I would like to make an argument for Constantine.
It's not bad.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah. The problem with Lorgar is it completely destroys your ability to play troops.
And if you don't have troops, it doesn't matter because he can kill his own troops and turn them into demons. And I'm thinking like out the gate, 1 energy for 3, but late game. 10 energy for 10 attack with Constantine is not bad. And first strike, too. I mean, that basically that's a guaranteed 12 or 13 damage, right? Because he's got 3 attack.
Oh, that sinking feeling where he just sits there and buffs, wait. Like that animation just slows it down and you're like, just kill me already.
He's rather annoying, but he's such a great warlord. I love him.
Angron's another one. If you start as a Whisper, like that's just crazy.
If we had to talk starting Whispers...
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's base out. Everybody's starting as their Whispers form full health, starting at 2 energy.
Yep.
I still wouldn't put Horus at the top. I would put him maybe in the top 10 because 2 to deal 3 and stun, and especially in some matchups, like that's a superior Mortarion for sure, right? Like automatically. It's just like, okay, your Angron doesn't matter. I'll win this game now because I'm dealing damage and you don't do anything. But that doesn't really on the same level as like a free attack with Jagathai Khan, or
now that I think about it, what about Kroll?
Kroll's good. I think Korax would be significantly better than Kroll in this matchup because obviously,
because she just puts one sentence on, right? It's not like cumulative.
Yeah, it's just one. So. I mean, that's a passive part.
I'm trying to remind myself on some of the reckonings, because you only see a handful of them in play.
Yeah.
Well, you only need a handful of them. Most of the time you're running for a different goal, and it's just a happy heal.
Yeah, or at the very least, like, there's just the meta, there's like a handful of Warlords. Like, Mortarion, you might see Mortarion, but nobody ever does Mortarion's Whispers,
no.
Playing that competitive.
And if they are, they're playing an attrition deck, and
that's
those
a
aren't
whole different
style. At all.
Yeah.
Those are actually counter in what's it called?
Counter meta.
Counter meta. They're not good in any way, and they don't really counter the meta attrition.
No, they're just way to respond to it.
Yeah, because there's more way. The more cards they get in their hand over time, the faster they're just going to win. Oh well.
Yeah, one of the Whispers I absolutely hate, and we had a question in our lodge. Like, what was think were the top 5 cards you dislike, and I think this was top for me. Luther's Whispers. There is nothing worse. Oh, there's nothing worse than when you're playing a troop deck and he gets it off, and you're like, well, he's just going to kill me with my own troops now.
Yep. I mean, the change to it is better than it used to be, because it was like, oh, I just have to do 1 damage. Like, it's got to have 5 health or less. I mean, that's fair, you know.
Yeah, because before he used 1 Jaeger to take all your stuff.
Yeah.
You couldn't stop him.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I like that 712. I'll just put a dent in it. That's mine now.
I'm sorry, you thought you owned a card?
Yeah.
Yep.
He definitely more balanced now, but you know, more off topic which is fun.
Yeah.
I mean, Sons of Horus, they're basic. There's not real much to say. We can cover their legendaries. I don't think they have a bad one.
No.
I think they're all
When
very
we
good.
say they're basic,
Well, okay, Punisher. I keep forgetting that card exists.
I need to say something, which is I think they've actually been made more generic as time goes on, especially with their new cards.
Well, that's how being a generic faction works. The more new features being added, the more you look at the one that doesn't have any gimmicks to it, and you just go.
But I mean, if you look at their cards, like Juster and Elite, it's quite obvious what's happened is that the other countries, the other factions that have a high energy bodyguard style troop has been implemented here. Muster for Lupercal looks basically like, to me, a thing of angels. Host of angels.
A better host. It's a better host of angels.
Deal with host of angels.
Praetor-San conditional buff, Asmodile squad, flank battle honor, Catalan Rhino, put in play a relatively cheap troop.
Kind of like the new cards. I think out of all the ones in Galaxy, or the expansion Galaxy in Flames, maybe not the strongest, but I kind of liked the change that happened to Sons of Horus, and the fact that because I know they were trying to create different playstyles with the factions, and you had a very set Burn Horus or whatever playstyle with Sons of Horus. But now with Tibalt Mar, I love the fact that they can actually have a playable deck where you do just sort of buff troops again and again, and you know, because in the lore, the Sons of Horus, they're the ones that fell to chaos hard. I quite like the fact that you start off with.
Well, I wouldn't say they fell to chaos hard when the comparison is stuff like Word Bearers. They are the first though, and that's what makes them important.
They jumped feet first and joyfully.
But I like that because you're right, they have got very vanilla cards. You know, they don't have any gimmicks to them. But I like that you almost created a gimmick with them, that they're, you know, quite corruptible.
It's not the optimal gimmick, but it is a fun one.
Yeah, it's, as I said, not the strongest, you know, from the Galaxy in Flames, but I like the fact that.
Oh no, all their cards in Galaxy in Flames. Muster for Lupercal, I believe it's called, alone completely moved them up on the ladder, because it's 12 damage if played. Assuming you don't take any out, of course.
Yeah,
and if he has frontal assault,
get rid of
2 1-drop pods. Yeah.
And if he doesn't have frontal assault, or even the card that gives all your Astartes Marks of Chaos.
Right. I love playing Muster and then throwing Treachery down, because you're like, okay, like not only do I have these drop pods, but some of the stuff inside of it is now harder for you to kill.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the few instances I would say where playing that card before like the end of your turn, because normally like if you've got an offensive play, you've got a buff or something, you really want to hold on to it till your turn so you can play it on something that survives. But in that situation, your odds are high that something is going to survive, and playing that card increases the likelihood that more will survive. So I like that. It's a fun little combo. It's not something that I throw down all the time, but I have like 1 Treachery in my Tibalt Mar deck. So at the very least, I can get, you know, a bunch of Chaos Marks, or at minimum, I'll get 1 if he's able to like use his Battle Honor at the same time I play it.
Which is always good.
Yeah. As far as the Warlords go, and we've talked about their abilities and whatnot, I mean, every single one of them except for Tarek has got a pretty decent, long-lasting story. Tarek's story becomes a little bit convoluted following, Galaxy.
Becomes a demon.
Yeah. Which is odd to me. That was always interesting, because he becomes a demon, but he was loyal, and it's not like he willingly gave his... But they took that. They took his gene seed to use as a demon, and that was the first time, really, I think, in any 40K or 30K book I read where it was like, odd, you don't have to want to be a chaos person to become the host of a demon. That's interesting.
Well, yeah, they kind of just put a thing into his body.
Yeah.
The same way how like a psyker in 40k will fuck up and then suddenly a demon just walks into his body.
Yeah, but with it being a psyker, like that's always the risk that they run, right?
Well, yeah, that's how it works. Psychers are so like close to the warp it can happen, but all you gotta do is put someone close to the warp and they can just reach over.
Yeah, and then for him, they're like, not only did we do that, but he was dead, and we did it. It was like, well, why aren't you just turning corpses into demons all the time? I mean, Nurgle does, but he wasn't a Nurgle demon. It was kind of an undivided.
There needs to be more usage of just sides turning corpses back alive. Like Iron Hands have their undead. The what are they called?
Iron Hands have their undead?
Yeah, Iron Hands can revive the dead.
I've never heard of this before. Please tell me more.
Yeah, what's
they're called revenants. They have an entire force of them in 40k, and they make them in 30k. It's tech heresy, and they're not allowed to. But after Ferris fell, they kind of went fuck it.
Oh, was there a short story on this where Iron Hand's vessel got boarded by Iron Hands, and they're like, "Oh, what's this you're doing?"
I think that might be it, but there's a lot. Like in 40k, the Iron Fathers, like the chapter masters, they're fall around by a contingency of these guys at all times. 40k lore, but Axel. And I want these guys in the game, and they weren't added in GIF, and it breaks my heart.
Is that a bit like the was it the Dark Angels? They've got the Men of Iron just sort of sitting in a closet somewhere, and they can just bust those out if anything ever gets too hairy.
Yeah, it's Men of Stone, but yeah.
No, Men of Stone. No, it's Men of Iron. We don't know what the Men of Stone are. Men of Stone really is just implied to be people.
Men of Stone, not style of AI?
No, Men of Iron are the people who wiped out the world. Or universe, I guess.
Yeah, I remember Men of Iron, but I also remember Men of Stone and Men of Gold.
Yeah, one of those is humanity in the thing, but no, they have a Men of Iron. Or
yeah, but Men of Iron's bad Skynet. Men of Gold is good Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator coming and saving everyone. Can't remember Men of Stone. Yeah, they're one of those sort of fluffy parts of the lore that you kind of get the feeling Games Workshop are like, yeah, just put them in. Just don't.
Right, they're like, we need some more men. Men of Wood. Throw that out there.
They're like the missing two Primarchs. It's like just kind of there.
Just different Mega Man bots. It's like it's a man of bubbles. A man of bubbles. That's what it is.
You get the impression they're just like, oh, we've done enough writing for today. We let them guess.
Well, part of it is to make your own guides, so you can do your own universes.
Yeah. The one thing with the writing that I was, especially with the Sons of Horus, they didn't have a whole lot. Like when I started playing, it was like the Black Legion, right? And you're like, oh, Black Legion, the Chaos Space Marines, and then they were the Lunar Wolves, and then they were the Sons of Horus, and that was it. Like there was no fluff on them. And then they did the White Dwarf did quite a while, I think over a year, they did the Index Astartes, which basically detailed all the background of the founding legions. And I was always like looking forward to, like as I was reading that series, like, oh, I want to find out about the Sons of Horus, because Horus is the War Master, the Horus Heresy. It's like, what was their deal? How did they fall? And it talked about, when they finally got to him, they talked about, their kind of the background, like a barbarian kind of planet. And then it was just kind of like at Davin, Horus, was touched by chaos. And when that was after that, then his legion became chaos. And I was like, that's it. Like, so when they were going to do the Horus Heresy as a book series, I was really stoked. And I was even more so to find out that like the first 3 books were Sons of Horus. And it was like, oh man, this is going to be great. Like Luna Wolves, like I'm going to find out. And I thought that they did a really good job, not only of, like establishing the Horus Heresy setting, but like finally breathing a lot of, character and like breath into these Sons of Horus, because you got the warrior lodges, you got the Mournival, and then that kind of set the basis, because then you find out that like all the other legions have kind of got their own Mournival of various sorts. You've got the hierarchy as far as like all the different legions and their captains and how they kind of feel or interact with other legions. And the Sons of Horus are indeed this pinnacle, like they're the top dogs. Like they're the only people who did the crusade better than the Sons of Horus was the Imperial Fists, and the Imperial Fists are going back to Terra. So the War Master is so prestigious that he actually gets to rename the Legion after himself, which like all those little things, like I thought were done really well, and I really liked it.
I'd like to apologise to interrupt, but I want to launch the debate. Does the fact that Horus's War Master come across in the game?
Does it come across in the game?
What do you mean by that?
So Horus is supposed to be either the big bad or the
card form
fallen paragon.
The card form we have is him before the fall, and then his reckoning is him after the fall. And I mean, if you go by the logic that it's the best reckoning in the game, which it's not, then I guess you can make the argument.
He's powerful when he drops Vengeful Spirit on you. That's
he does. And I mean, most things would feel powerful if you nuke it from orbit.
Well, and I mean, to kind of add to that, that was his style. His spearhead assault was what he was known for. The Sons of Horus were literally like, just go right for the heart with the spear, behead the beast, and then you're done. And that's really kind of what the Sons of Horus do. Like, hit the Warlord hard, hit him fast, hit him with everything, and then the game's over. It doesn't matter what they've got in hand or what they've got on board. That was what the Sons of Horus did. That's how he kind of took down the war boss in Olenor. Seemed like they were, overwhelmed by all those orcs, and like, he comes to save the Emperor, but really that was his whole point, was a direct strike. And even at, his assault on Terra, that's the whole point. It's like, I'm just going to go right for Terra. We're going to launch everything at the palace, and we'll crack it open, and then that kind of, there's a lot of other factors involved there, because there's other Primarchs involved and other personalities involved that kind of divulge and kind of break apart that plan. But that was always his strategy. That was always the Sons of Horus approach, was that spear tip assault, and then the battle's over, before it's all said and done. And I think the game captures that element of the Legion. As far as the game capturing the feel that he is the War Master,
I mean, in the end of the day, it's just a pretty title.
It's a title. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it makes him like, I mean, if we were to get the Emperor as a warlord, not like as a raid boss, I would expect him to be quite challenging. As a Crucible boss, I would expect him to be unbeatable. And that better be the case, Axel. But as a warlord that is collectible and playable, and therefore has to be balanced for ladder play, if the Emperor were in the game, I would expect him to have a cool ability or something, but ultimately it wouldn't feel like the end all, because he can't be, because everybody's playing the Emperor and nobody's losing. Like you gotta be able to lose. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question all the way.
I'd be quite conflicted if you have the Emperor in, because they've got to make him balance. As you say, you can't just win with him as soon as you put him on. But say if I was facing someone with the Emperor and I was, Nemiel, for example, and I win, that would just never happen.
Then again, Lotera can beat Angron, so we have to have a suspension of disbelief. But the Emperor is on par with the Chaos Gods.
Yeah,
which is weird to consider, but he is at least one of them.
Maybe if it was the Emperor, like, preoccupied on the Golden Throne. Like that's the art that they use. He's really not really fighting the battle. He's like, I got better stuff to do. Whatever you want. Okay.
You joke. A psychic projection of the Emperor could work, and that's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah,
it's a psychic projection. It's like a shard of Magnus. It's not as strong as a full one. You're just fighting a weakened Emperor.
Is that like when he subjugated the World Eaters? What's it called? Their planet where the Ultramarines came in and
Monarchia. Yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking of Word Bears.
That wasn't him. He projected himself, but he wasn't there.
No.
Yeah.
He was fucking off doing
Malkador, and then the Emperor comes down and it's like, no.
Yeah, essentially.
Feel me in your bones. Yeah. Kneel. Like that's, boom. And they can't even like fight it. Like it just is like, which is interesting. And the way that whole passage was written in First Heretic, like it was really nice, because it put I think my favorite Legion books always put a spin on a faction, whether it is a part of lore that I didn't know, or making a faction I dislike likable or intriguing, and that just right out the gate was like, right out the gate you have sympathy for these guys. Like, you understand, like, in that moment, they decided that this wasn't who they wanted to follow anymore, and they had a reason for it, because the very notion of everything that they were had just been violated and destroyed, and then on top of that, like, they were forced to grovel, you know. Like, that's pretty deep.
Inquisitor.
All you had to do was burn the planet.
Inquisitor, this man over here deserves your attention.
Yeah, I always thought the part about Monarchia was good.
Yeah,
It was the first Imperial Saint in it, technically. She did revive.
I quite like the stuff that's come out later where they've said that the Emperor actively pushed the legions against each other, and, you know, some of the Primarchs he completely disregarded or straight up, you know.
I mean, it's not explicitly said, but it was said that he knows which ones he knows some are going to go traitor, so he's going to try to keep the ones he likes the most on his,
and he
like,
kind of
they're fighting.
I mean, if that doesn't absolutely confirm it, you know, making one kneel in front of another legion as you bombard their planet, it was less so kneel before the Ultramarines and kneel before me while the Ultramarines stand behind me. But in the end, it still came to the same result. It also makes sense because he was trying to show Lorgar hubris, which is something he doesn't have.
Yeah. I just like, sometimes I imagine that scene though, and then there's like that one Ultramarine who's like in his arms, like, man, this is really awkward. Like the entire just like bowing before them, and he's like, I really don't want to be here. I feel bad. For
Even Gilliman even goes, he's like, yeah, that was a bad call. They really shouldn't have been made to grovel like that.
Yeah.
Gilliman even wants to apologize for it, but by the time he gets around to apologizing, Lorgar is bombing Callus.
That's exactly. He's like, I was just about to send you an I'm sorry letter, and this is the respect I get.
That's pretty good.
Well, getting back to this Sons of Horus. So, I mean, in terms of, we talked about a little bit the lore. In terms of Warlords, as they are, what would you guys say is your favorite?
Oh, Tilbert Mar, easily. I've always loved playing him in an event, especially when he would drop the 3-2. God, bring back those days. He's just a solid warlord. He works with the mission, one of the few missions that I actually enjoy. Not because it's particularly good, but because it's fun. Mm-hmm. I feel like fun can outweigh viability at times. It's a solid faction, in my opinion. I enjoy it.
In terms of enjoy, like if I wanted to try and push for ladder, you'd pick Horus. That's, you know, he's.
You say that Tilbert Mar was better than Horus just a little bit ago. It's finally changed.
Oh, really?
Yes. I mean, I keep saying Pirate's last part wrong every time, so I'm just calling him Ladle. Pirate Ladle fucking destroyed top 50 with Tilbert Mar for a bit. He was one of the main people, but a lot of people jumped onto that wagon, which can't blame him, even I did. And they worked good. He's a solid warlord, constant bodies. Yeah, I mean, you never played the mission. You don't play most missions on ladder. That's just a sad fact of the day. But
yeah, Raven Guard and Ultramarines, really.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. But Tybalt, yeah, I like him. He's fun. I like combo decks rather than just, you know, like one face bash strategy or something. It feels good when you've planned it out, you've lined it up, and that frontal assault. I mean, so as Scuff said earlier, you could just play treachery. You could just give them sort of, you know,
more often than not you do.
But it's so much overkill. It's just so fun to pull off the frontal assault on everyone, 5s on everyone.
Yeah, that's good, especially because that's 30 damage across the board.
Yeah,
there's some fun ways to play Sons of Horus, and those warlords support it. I know one of us didn't say their favorite warlords.
Yeah, I'm struggling to come up with one. I don't really like this faction. Full disclaimer. It just doesn't stand out that much to me as important. That being said, forced to pick one, going off emotional bonds, it would have to be Loken. Sure, he's basically he's 5 cards, 6 cards now? For a faction that doesn't even have him as warlord. But even considering all of that, you look at him, he's the basic warlord. He's the warlord that got me out of the 500 to 1,000 range, and I only really climbed higher when I got into SAM.
Yeah, that's
so yeah, that's my opinion.
Loken will permanently just be okay. Never amazing, never underpowered, just okay. I mean, at the end of the day, it's burn in a burn faction.
There are some people who say they got to high terror with him.
Oh, easily. Yeah. When people still do it now, because he's a burn warlord in a burn faction. Not impossible. It's harder the more Scoria and Raven Guard become popular and just general high HP burn, but in a low HP meta, like a meta where things are a bit slower, he does really good.
So if you changed his HP to 35, do you think it'd be OP? Because quite a lot of the 30 HP rare Warlords, you look at their ability, like take Tarvitz, for example, and you're like, wow, if he was 35 health, he would be just unplayable. Loken, do you think if you buffed his HP, he'd be...
5 HP means a lot. I don't know if it would be game-breaking, but it definitely wouldn't be fun to face. I mean, look at Scoria. He got his damage increase and his HP increase at the time, making him a menace.
If we're talking about HP increases, though, you have to sort of mention the Swordsman.
Lucius?
Yeah.
Lucius is one of those examples where an HP increase could break him, and likely would.
Yeah. Emperor's Children is a very strong card pool.
Yes, especially after buffs.
Stuff kills damage. Yeah.
Scuff, you said your favorite Sons of Horus, right?
No.
Who is yours?
It's a hard call. It's a hard call between Loken and Tybalt Mar, honestly. Loken, for the character, I think, was just a good character and just a base ability. But I think Tybalt Mar's got just as arguably a better character, or a cooler character, or as cool, I should say.
Mar killing Medusan is one of the best parts of the Horus Heresy.
It's really good, and I think
like father, like son.
His whole shtick was, for while Loken was on the Mournival before the Sons of Horus, fully went traitor. He was kind of like, he's a little joke captain. All right, let's see what this guy's up to. He gets picked. He's got, he's got short man syndrome. He's not a short guy, but he's got big britches to fill. He wants to prove himself on the Mournival, and at that point, Horus isn't listening to the Mournival anymore because Horus is listening to his Chaos Council, and he's making mistakes, and he's kind of overextending himself, and Mar is seeing the threat of the Shattered Legions for what they were, and he goes about, he makes a big stand, he's like, listen, if you don't do something about Medusan, you will lose. And he will lose this whole thing. And, Horus basically says, okay, I'll give you a shot. Give you your thing. You go take care of him if that's the case. And he does. And he does it in a pretty good way. And eventually he gets his comeuppance, as all good traders do. But I liked his character arc. I like his ability in game. I like units that make units. I like battle honor. And the fact that he kind of, like you said, he ties in with the mission, the whole marks of chaos on certain troops. It's just something cool. I just like the whole play style of him, and then you've got Loken to kind of counteract it. It's hard for me to choose between the two, but I would probably go with the new hotness because he's new. And that's fun. And Tybalt Mar as an event warlord, I'm trying to think, there was a couple other Sons of Horus event warlords, but he was my favorite Sons of Horus. Aximand, which I didn't like, even though he was obviously also on the Mournival, and then Akram, which I did not like either.
Akram still has that weird warning where wording. Thank you, Axel. You can speak English today. Where it says put in a displaced civilian for her. For some reason.
Yeah, I remember that. That was odd. It was just hard to take advantage of, wasn't it?
Well, it always gave you card draw, but I'm saying the wording on it's weird because it specifically refers to the other player as her for some reason. Yes, I don't know why.
Because I see all of my opponents as female
women.
That's right.
It's all those female face.
I don't want to read into this Freudian-esque thing.
That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to keep it at that.
I don't think we should go off of that, to be honest. I guess we got Warlords out of the way. The next necessary step is Legendaries.
Yeah, I think that's the next topic as far as Legendaries go for the faction. They've got some good ones.
I think all of them except one are good, in my opinion.
Which would you say is your fave?
That's hard. Targos is so good. Malgurst is so good. Second wave. I'm going to give it to Targos. Vengeful Spirit is the finisher, but Targos dropped early can finish the game by resigning. I have to give it to him. Plus, I love Marks of Chaos.
I think Vengeful Spirit's a really good finisher, and you, as we said before, if you get within that 8-limit range and you start approaching 8 energy, you're like, yeah, this is it. But Targos, it's so much, and especially if it gets dropped early, energy term 4 or 3 or something, just finishes the game there, and then you've lost all tempo, and it's so hard to claw it back.
And even if you can react to it, you probably just burned an entire turn doing so.
Yeah.
So,
and nothing left on the board afterwards to put any pressure on. I think I'm not sure if he's my favorite. I think he's probably the strongest. I think Second Wave is
a contender for my favorite too, simply because of the fast troops and even the ones that draw. I mean, those are the only ones you put in that include.
Yeah, and it adds a little bit of random into it. You know, you're probably going to be playing it with Grogor Squad and the 3-2 with the card draw and the drop pod. So it's just sort of like how many Grogor Squads do I get out of this?
Yeah,
I'm going to commit heresy, which is weird because I'm a loyalist player. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Malachust.
I would say he's very good. The issue is flying troops can still take him out, in my opinion at least.
I'm also going to follow it up and say that I have a personal preference. Sorry, it's the Punisher.
The Punisher is possibly the worst legendary in the game right now, troop-wise.
Yeah, and 2 energy deal 10 damage is nice.
It's impressive.
The problem is it's a 6-12 tank. I know that. I know that it's too late to really affect anything in the. I also know that it costs too much, and that it's such an easy target for removal. Because there's 3 different special removals for vehicles now?
Not even that. By the time it's played, you can just ignore it and kill them in 90% of games.
I mean, sometimes an event where people aren't going in with their decks, and you get to those later turns, it can be quite fun to.
Well, I mean, event exists to make every playstyle viable, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be that disagreed on because the event's interesting.
I'd also say and remind people that event is when we got the rumor of people with decks of 8+. Was it 8+ Vengeful Spirits?
It wasn't a rumor because I've seen the images.
Stand corrected.
What do you do? Because the Vengeful Spirit is just going to be a brick in your hand for ages. And
that's why people didn't prioritize that one. People prioritized
Chariot of the Gods. Chariot of the Gods and Quickfire. That's what you draft.
Yeah. I'm guessing you ran into a couple of those, Scuff?
No, I drafted a couple of those.
I'm not surprised. I mean that counts. That counts for running into them if you're the one causing it.
For me, it's Vengeful Spirit. I mean, that's just it. Like 8 for 8, close the game, and you do it in style. Like I'm gonna hit you with the Vengeful Spirit. Like what else is to say? Oh, you don't like the fact that I had that card in my hand? Well, that's the way the game works. Like that's what a finisher is. It's the template for finishers.
It is.
Yeah. Also,
it's a good one too.
Question: do you think it's the best finisher though? If you could pick any finisher from any faction.
Okay, so when we say finisher, because I mean some factions don't have a capital ship finisher, but we're saying like the card in the faction, because like the World Eaters have got actually for their finisher it's a combo with the land speeders and sweeping advance. So
I guess we got to go off of a single card that deals damage.
Are we talking capital flagships, or are we talking the most high damage output finishing card?
No, just single cards. Like for example, the Raven, I'd consider a finisher. I
mean it is.
Okay.
That kind of thing. So it doesn't have to be a capital ship. I wouldn't say a combo. One card.
One card across the board that is the best.
I'm gonna have to give it to Contrador simply because it's dropped at 5 energy. Like
I'm gonna say Valdor because he's a warlord.
But see, that's a reckoning trigger and stuff.
Okay, if we're going away
a single card you play that ends the game, or the intent of it. So like, there's not that many. See, that's also not. If I play a Paragon Spear, no, I wouldn't even call that a finisher either. That's a war gear. Stuff. Irresistible Charisma if they feed you something, but if they don't, then
tell him on Dreadnought. I'm doing this to annoy him now, people.
Yeah, virus bomb.
Less of annoying, but more just a waste of time. No, I guess Vengeful Spirit's just the vanilla finisher. It's a finisher every card wants to live up to be.
Yeah, in terms of cost and value, Contrador is the cheapest for the most, right? 5 for 7.
Yeah, but it's got that downside that means you only play it as a finisher.
Only play it as a finisher. Whereas Vengeful, at the very least, you can use it the next turn, draw a card, or take out a big troop if you absolutely had to. McCragg's Honor is honestly a runner-up for me, a second-place runner-up, just because it's also flexible. I would actually say, if we were talking of all time, original Pride of the Emperor was the best finisher, because you could 2-turn 13 damage that. Because
I still love it. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, the way that worked is it would perfection it return to your hand, so you could follow it up the next turn. So you knew if your opponent played Pride of the Emperor, the next turn they were playing it again. There's like, oh great, well I guess there's nothing I can do here. So yeah, but I mean, I would say Vengeful Spirit with like a runner-up, McCragg's Honor.
McCragg's Honor is solid because it also got that heal alternative in case you need it.
Exactly.
There's some good cards now as finishers, and a lot of them are actually cards as seals.
I would like Phalanx to do damage, but it's not a finisher.
No,
it's
far from it.
Some of those factions, some of those factions that are combo based, Custodes, Thousand Suns, Imperial Fist, they don't have a finisher per se. They really got to have a lot of pieces. Harrowing was a great finisher for a while. The hammer, but ultimately, like just for style and one shot, one punch, like it's coming. Like there still is that, like, right. Well, if he's got it, it's over. Like,
it's just how it works.
You just wait it out, and you're like, okay, yeah. Just how if he reaches for a card immediately, like, okay, here comes the Vengeful Spirit.
Right, exactly.
It's just when they pause for a while, you're like, maybe.
Or they pause, or they're playing a draw or something. You're like, oh,
they're fishing.
Yep. Getting back to those fish starties,
And then you find out that, no, they were just baiting you and they wanted extra cards, so they were trying to do the mission for the day.
Yeah, because they already have it. Yeah, I've had that happen.
They're flexing. They're like, I'm just going to play these three 1 energy chaos marks, and then I'm going to play it.
Oh, no.
Just to rub it and salt in the wound.
Yeah.
The worst one is your turn before they've got the 8 energy for theirs, and they start spamming...
the
card.
Yeah, and you're just
not even emote. When they start picking up the same card over and over and over again, you're like, "Yep, that's the finisher that they're going to play."
Yeah.
See, I don't really pay attention to what they're doing in their hands. So, I mean, it's all psychological.
Then I know what they're going to play.
Don't get psyched out. Don't let yourself get psyched out by their hand. Just focus on your own stuff. If they got it, they got it. I mean, that's all it comes down to it. But play the game out because they might not.
Yeah, they could bluff you into quitting early just
That's
by...
it. I've had some people where they quit, they swear I've got them. I'm like, no, didn't have it. I had 5 cards in my hand, but it wasn't one of those.
I mean, I'll resign if I can count the board and see lethal. I'll just go, okay.
Yeah,
I'm done.
That's different. But if you're like, well, if you would have played that card, it would be over. Like, but I didn't. So...
And I wasn't going to, so you should have stayed. Yeah, a lot of people just do that.
At my level... You can actually reliably predict that people are going to miss it or not, depending on how they've played already. Hell, I miss it so often, I don't actually know how often I miss it.
It happens.
Mm-hmm.
I've fucked up lethal by accidentally cameoing everything possible except the Warlord. And sometimes you're so focused on deleting a threat, you forget to count your damage.
Yeah,
I believe we've all done that at least once.
It'll happen, especially with some factions where like there's more math involved, like Space Wolves.
Lehman.
Yeah, Lehman Russ is like huge. Like you have to count those pieces, and if you're off by 1, or the time it takes you to count it, you think you've got it. Yeah.
The chance to lose by Lehman just because you took too long to count.
It's possible. Yeah, your turn ends before you actually get to finish the plays that you had to do.
Yeah, and then you can just kind of kiss that match goodbye.
It happens.
Space Wolves go big or they go home. It's just how it works.
Well,
I found it funny in events with Imperial Fists as well. You'd get 2 Camber DS players, and they're too busy trying to remove the other person's board, but they don't realise that actually they have lethal and could just kill the Warlord.
Right. Yep. They're like if you just there's no front line, just hit him. It's done.
Yeah. They're too busy bunkering up and fortifying their turret.
Yep.
It happens to the best of us.
And it's always that single turret.
That one turret that's at 8 bastion, and why won't it die?
Oh man.
Well, do we have any other stuff on the Sons of Horus? I mean, any other thoughts?
I mean, they're vanilla, but sometimes that's the flavor you want. That's not a bad thing. It's a tried and true flavor.
Yeah, as I said before, the faction I'm sort of most happy with how they sort of expanded the range of gameplay in the new expansion. Because before that came out, you couldn't even imagine them moving away from just deal direct damage and try and kill them as quickly as possible. But now they've genuinely got another contender and gameplay style that you can play with them. So I think that's fun. I think that's good.
Yeah, there's nothing else that comes to they are the go-to beginner faction. There is nothing wrong with that. They can operate at any point on the ladder in most metas. They should be respected and feared for that in many ways.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Being a tried and true Legion.
That's it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think in the meta a couple of seasons ago, you'd see so many burn Horuses, and they probably were a bit too strong, but a few little nerfs. They haven't been nerfed into the ground. I think they're in a really good place. You could build a deck and try something new, or just take a typical burn deck, and they'll have a good win rate, but they won't be ridiculous. So I think even in the meta, I think Everguild have done a really good job at balancing them out right. So they're still fun, they're still competitive, but they're not broken.
I would agree.
But, that's always a good thing.
I think that's right where they should be. I would like to see Abaddon and Terra get played a little bit more, just for the sake of I always want to see Warlords get play that don't get a lot of play. But that's the Warlords. That's a Warlord issue. That's not really a faction issue. The faction has got some good cards. They've got some strong cards, and especially in event, they work very well in event for those cards. And even for some of the support cards, I'm like, you got the Serpati is a great draft pick.
Yeah, at least in draft.
Yeah.
Outside of that,
Outside of that, it's like, if it sticks, that's great, but I wouldn't rely on it. But in draft, you're like, oh, you got rid of one Serpati, how about another? How about another? How about another?
Yeah.
Serpati, is Serpati the one that gains on market on
resolution?
No, I think that's a different one. I think Serpati is the one that when you play a Chaos troop, it gets +1.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the marker Chaos on resolution.
Yeah. We both are thinking of that card when we're saying Serpati.
Yeah, when we're saying Serpati, that's not the one we're talking about. We're talking about the other one. Does it start with an X?
Yeah,
Zetsa.
Yeah, Zetsa is very good. Serpati is a joke.
Yeah.
After his nerf, especially.
Yeah.
Rip Serpati, he did not deserve that treatment.
Yeah. I quite like. I think Event's good for having those cards that there are better cards in their energy bracket, but they're still cards that you want to play in a fund, like Chondon Squad, the 6/3 with drop pod.
Yeah.
You're not really going to see that on the ladder too much, but it's Event.
He is very popular on the ladder. And Tobit Mart, that was very good. Simply because it's a big body. You can think of it like a 6/5 initially because it's hard to remove, and then combine that with Tilbert Mar's tendency to give Mark of Nurgle more than he should be able to. They stuck around.
It's like having a sort of survivor, but at the front instead. It's not just a 6/5 because you've still got to hit it twice to get rid of the drop pod and then take the health down.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. They got good drops. They got some bad drops, but that's every week.
That's everybody. Yeah.
That's how it should be.
Not everyone can have perfect cards. All of them should be usable, or at least in a very niche scenario, but we can't always have that.
I got a question on the Forgotten Warlords. So Abaddon and Tarek, what would people do to change them? Because Tarek needs all the help he can get, but Abaddon
Tarek either needs his damage increase or his cost of his ability decreased.
I would do both for Tarek. I would drop the cost of his ability, and then I would also give him his passive back. But
that's easy.
Yeah. Abaddon,
let him. I want to say give him the Santar treatment, but then we'd have so many Warlords similar to each other, as if we don't already. I don't really know what you could do to Abaddon because he excels in a troop-based meta, but outside of that,
yeah, with him, with his ability being specifically like, dealing damage to an enemy troop, and we've got ward, we've got precognition, stealth, or just no troops whatsoever. I would give him a passive that wasn't necessarily immune to stun. I would give him a passive like if pay 2, deal 3 damage to an enemy troop, and then also your troops have +1 attack, or or not +1 attack. Your troops gain +1 health. So that's it.
He might need to get the Ariman treatment and give him a special card, because a good special card can.
Well, yeah, if you give him a special card, that could be anything. I mean, at that point, like what? Give him Survivor 3, something that does like something that returns back to his hand, something that plays.
I know a lot of people suggest it should play in the Abaddon's Chosen somehow, because that card, while the name is similar, Abaddon's Chosen is never played.
No, I wouldn't put that in as an option for a special card. If I was a special card Maybe like give.
Well, first you got to buff Abaddon's
You
Chosen.
have to buff it or give all your units shield or something stupid like.
Isn't there a troop called Abaddon's Chosen that appears in the campaign? Not campaign.
Yes.
When I say campaign, I mean tutorial.
Yeah, tutorial.
Yes, I don't remember what exactly the stats are, but it does exist.
I don't think most people can remember what it does, to be honest.
You'd have to go play.
Not a lot of
People don't spend too long in the tutorial.
I don't think I want to play the tutorial, if I'm being honest.
Not anymore.
No, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know
think
how I
anyone
would
will.
change him, but I would give him a passive of some kind. I'd keep his
Yeah.
ability as it was. I just wouldn't. It would have to be something that would be useful specifically when your opponent doesn't have a troop that you can target.
I mean,
Otherwise, doesn't exist.
Could you add something sort of lore-wise to him? I'm trying to think what's lore specific.
Well, he was in charge of the Justerians.
Yeah.
Besides that,
And
we already have
could-
Justerians.
Yeah, in the heresy, honestly, in everything that he shows up in, he's just kind of a cranky jerk. He doesn't do a whole lot except stand around and be cranky. That's like there's only a couple stories I think where he actually did something aside from the one fight that he had with Loken. He doesn't do a whole lot. He's just there and cranky man. He's crank master.
Yeah,
He has a cool demon sword later into the heresy.
Yeah, I mean once that's all said and done, but not until.
And by later into the heresy, I mean 40k.
You mean
But-
after it?
After it, but once he gets that cool demon sword, that demon is a card. Right now, though, if only I could turn him into a sword. Oh well.
What about if you gave him a muster for Lupercal or frontal assault at 7, so you'd guaranteed have it in your hand?
No, that's an issue in of itself with how this card game works.
Yeah,
Couldn't
that would
really
be
do
too
that.
much. That would be too much. If I gave him anything, it would just be like a 2 to 4
Minor
energy
buff.
purple card that did something. Whether that is
I mean-
put in play two 3/2s, the 3/2 drop pod, not the ones that draw a card, but the other ones. I don't know. It wouldn't be major, but it would be something to give him, some sort of punch against troopless warlords.
Yeah. Just something to make him stand out over Horus or Tybalt Mar.
Mm-hmm.
Bit overshadowed.
Yeah,
He's
as first
bad.
captain, he doesn't do a whole lot.
Yeah.
Well, when you guys
There are
aren't
some
playing
good
Legions,
first captains, some not.
what do you guys do?
Essays, dissertation work, research.
We have two university students here at Dorn, and the answer is not much.
I don't know. I play rugby in my spare time, so going around getting broken bones and having fun.
I wish I
Watch
still
Liverpool.
played rugby.
I
Yeah,
mean, that's just how it works. Broken bones for fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
I never broke a bone whilst doing rugby.
Oh, I had 3 major surgeries by 23, all from rugby injuries. So, yeah.
I
That was
played
good
for a
fun.
decade straight, and the most I got was a sprained wrist, I think.
Then you weren't trying hard enough.
Oh, my
Oh,
God,
I was
yeah,
a
really
forward.
exciting.
I was a full forward.
You're not trying hard enough unless you and the guy you hit are both broken.
Oh, I dislocated the same guy's shoulder twice.
Where,
Yeah,
where,
see,
where,
that's fair.
where were you playing in the pack?
Every position. Traditionally
Oh,
tight end.
Right, utility
At
forward.
the end.
I'm just going to sit here knowing vaguely what these terms mean as someone who played football. I'm out.
Yeah,
Tight head's the guy who's got his head squished by 2 others in the scrum.
yeah,
That's fair.
yeah. He's the guy who can drink the most at the end.
I don't drink.
First mistake.
Oh, right. So, hang on. Are you sure you play rugby? Because you don't drink and you've never been injured.
I've been injured. Let's get that straight.
Scott's
I've
just
not
nodding.
broken a bone from rugby.
Okay.
I'm having fun listening to the rugby talk.
The British to the
Yeah.
British noises.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
Well,
we had our last guest, Mr. Everguild, say "in it" on the podcast, so
Yeah. Well,
We
if
won by
anyone
that.
wants to get into rugby, we've got the Six Nations playing tomorrow. It's fun to
I
go and
don't
watch.
care about professional sports either.
First mistake. Isn't Super Bowl Sunday coming up though? Thank
I
you,
have
professional
no
sports.
idea. I don't follow. I don't follow
Yeah, I mean,
professional sports either.
I follow hockey.
I casually follow professional wrestling at this point. That's really about it.
Yeah, that's fine.
The sport with worse healthcare than rugby.
That's true. I mean, let's be real.
And almost none of the injuries are from actual performance.
They're from things. I don't know. Some of them are great, but at the same time, usually they're all avoidable.
Is this the part where you plug the wrestling documentary?
You know what? I've been watching Dark Side of the Ring on Hulu, and if
It's
you guys
very good.
haven't caught it, they've got 3 seasons now. It's really good if you're curious or relatively intrigued about the world of professional wrestling. There's a lot of stories there spanning back decades. Some of them are a little bit more famous than others. They touch on a lot of topics, some of them unsavory and whatnot. Kind of interesting, you know. It's interesting talking about some of those characters, how they came about, and some things that happened to them. So, but that's not what we're here to talk about. I mean, that's what I do when I'm not playing Legions. I guess I watch different things on Hulu. But I mean,
Hey.
what are you guys up to?
I'll give it to someone else before I go on my long-winded, usually D&D related rant.
Okay, speaking of D&D and stuff, I am actually hopefully going to be running a Wrath and Glory campaign as of tomorrow.
As am I.
This will be the first time I ever DM.
Do you have all the rulebook for Wrath and Glory, including the 2 new supplements?
No, I've not got the supplements rulebooks.
Give me a hot second, and I may be able to find it.
I've got the core rulebook, and I've got the free starter session thing. Which,
yeah. I completely ignore those because I'm going to homebrew the hell out of it like I always do. But
considering that none of us have played it before, we decided that it would probably be smart to just take the free guide, if that makes sense.
I know what you mean. Alright, I'm sending it. It's totally legally acquired, mind you.
Oh, I know. I've got a completely legal copy as well. And I actually do, because whenever you buy the paperback copy, then I give you a PDF as well.
Then, yeah, I'm lying through my teeth. I'm the pirate for a reason. You're Harfiddle DE. That's how it works. Alright, but yeah, no, Wrath and Glory is fun. I'm running a new campaign of that next weekend. This weekend, I'm running a normal D&D campaign. A little classic case of homebrew that's one of the most famous ones. You ever heard of the False Hydra?
No.
The Flesh Hydra. That is horrifying and will fuck with the party mentally.
That sounds like an episode of hentai.
No, Scoff. You put down the Japanese books that you swore to your parents are fighting mangas. I'll try to find it. It's the False Hydra. Basically, if it sings, you forget it exists. Which, you know, makes fighting it very difficult. And that's a beautiful Flesh Hydra. More gags at home. Just Google False Hydra. And it's a Hydra made of flesh.
Is this a Blue Waffle situation?
No.
Wow, bringing that up.
It looks reminiscent of The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing.
It does.
Yeah.
Ooh, so a company even made a miniature for it. If I cared enough to buy D&D miniatures,
That's a pretty creepy miniature. I won't lie.
I have to say it's a pretty good looking one.
Check it out at Comet Lord Miniatures. I'm not plugging them. They're not sponsoring us.
They could be though.
This podcast is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Let's talk
and Casper Mattress. And Casper Mattress.
And everyone here should be executed for heresy and treason. Just
and a loot box. And what else do we got?
Gotta get some Blue Chew, baby.
There's Blue Apron. There's so many just generic. We'll sponsor anyone.
I really should look into getting some sponsors. I don't know how. Like, I should ask Evergill if they want to sponsor us, but I don't know.
I mean, they've been on our Q&A twice.
I appreciate the fact that they've been on the Q&A. That is enough. You know, I'll take it if they continue to show up. Mr. Evergill's giving me promo codes. I guess we'll get into plugs because I'm going to throw that down. I've got promo codes to give away on the February Steam stream. That's going to be February 18th. I'll be playing probably around 8 p.m.-ish for a couple hours on Steam. So if you take a look at Steam and you go to the community hub, you should be able to see the stream that's going on there. Hop on, play, challenge me. I'm not yet figured out what the requirements are for the codes to be given away. Like, basically, I'm going to come up with some stuff like you've got to beat me with X, whatever X is going to be. And then the first 3 people that beat me will get a promo code for 1,000 gold. And then I'll probably just play around for a couple hours and take challenges and, you know.
So this is Baby Crucible.
Yeah, past the Friday night. Maybe if there's a mod that's available to throw down on Crucible, that could be fun for stream too. Axel,
someone should create a Chariot deck and beat you.
Yeah, you know what? I thought about like taking like all challengers just non-meta. That's a big list though. Like, you can't be on the meta report. Like, I'd have to actively scan that list every game. That's tricky. So I want to try to keep it a little more simple, but I'm not sure.
That's fair.
And then Friday, that's Friday on the 18th. On the 19th, we've got Bar Night Legions, and that is, again, as I mentioned, that's a casual tournament. And the format for that this month is Green with Jealousy. So you need one male, one female warlord. And then it doesn't matter the rarity for your warlord, but every other card in your deck has to be rare, has to be green rarity. And then that's it. And we play for the title of the Beodmeister. And it is the most prestigious title in all of Horus Heresy Legions, like bar none. By far,
bar none, especially if you use Def Sats to acquire it.
That's if you bring Def Sats to Bar Nine Legions, expect to get shamed, publicly shamed in Vox chat. It's going to happen.
I mean, at this point, according to the rules, it wouldn't be a legal play. So
I mean, neither are knights in most cases, but that doesn't mean you got to bring them.
That's true. That's exactly like we shame all party fouls, all high totem meta brews are massively frowned upon. It's basically a open way to just kind of chat, have Vox, and then laugh at people playing the best that they can with whatever we decide. And this month it is all rares except for your warlords. Your warlords can be in a rarity, but you have to have one male and one female warlord. For those who are wondering, Kyrus counts
as both.
Well, just about. I mean, you could. You know what? I'll allow it. If you take Kyrus and a Sisters of Silence, I will allow that. That's a valid choice.
What about Kabundo? Is that her as well?
Well, they got to be from different factions, though. So they have to be. So you can't take them from the same faction.
Kabundo is hard mail because of Khorne.
Well, he's got the bull, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bulls are male. This is a fact.
That is. I mean, you cannot deny it. That is.
You cannot milk a bull. Do not attempt to milk a bull.
Do not milk Kabunda. Last thing you do.
It will certainly.
It will be the last thing you do.
It will certainly be the last thing you do. But that's what I've got to plug. You guys got anything else to plug?
I'll do the usual. I'm gonna plug my boy Dorn because he made me 2 profile pictures now, and they're both beautiful. The crab with the pirate hat and the word bearer crab. That's Drew Lee Clark on Instagram. He does art. He does commissions. They're always great. And he does Mjoid Meister stuff, which always looks nice. So I think that's all I got to really say there.
All right.
If you like his art, you'll like his art.
Yeah, I'll plug my lodge. The Iron Hand, thanks for taking me in as a very low terror something, and helping me sort of push along. And I think I got to 4,300 something with their help. So yeah, thanks a lot.
I mean, nothing's stopping you from doing so. To the question typed.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Getting too political might be.
This isn't aimed at politics. Disclaimer.
Yeah.
I just want to plug the efforts of charity groups such as the International Committee of the Red Cross, currently working in war zones or difficult areas such as the Ukraine or contested areas to assist people who are either without heat, without materials, without food.
That's fair.
All right.
I know we had
LCFR recently.
I know LCFR, the nicest man in the world, always whenever he comes on, plugs the nurses and such.
Yeah, he's plugged the essential workers and the first responders. So
it makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for taking the time. I know, again, it is I would imagine getting on 2 a.m. where you guys are at, but in the Eye of Terror, it is a balmy 7 p.m. And
it is a brisk 9:52.
The temperature is just enough to make you sweat, but give you chills on the back of your neck. And
I disagree, as my side of the room is in the negatives by a lot.
Just how the Eye of Terror Studios works. That's just the way it is. Thermostat says 70, but that doesn't mean that's what you're going to get. But I want to thank you guys for being available and being on the call, being part of the discussion today, talking about the Sons of Horus. And
we spent more time talking about everything else.
We talked about a lot.
We had plenty of Sons of Horus.
But it all circles back, in one way, shape, or form. That's what Horus Heresy Legions is. That's what the Warhammer 40,000 Horus Heresy universe is so vast. It's hard to just talk about one thing.
Yeah, structure the conversation.
Yeah,
let it flow.
As long as we mention them a couple times, that's all that matters.
That's it. All right, well, that's it for me, guys. Thank you again.
Yeah. Cheers,
Thank you for me as well.
Bye.
Until next time.
Bye.
Right.
The sunlight dims.
This has been another episode of the Warp Chatter Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Eternal loyalty!
Burn it! Burn it all! Well executed.